We are at the Marina beach in Chennai. The building behind me is called the Vivekananda House. It was built in the 1840s, but until 1963, this building was called the Ice House. And therein lies a cool story. The British East India Company arrived in Madras, today's Chennai, in 1639. They raised a fort here and established a comfortable settlement. But imagine being an Englishman living here in the 1700s. Life wasn't easy. Language was a barrier, mosquitoes were plentiful. And then there was the unrelenting heat. The British never really learned to deal with it. Even in the searing summers of Madras, they would often dress in the typical English fashion of the times. Many layers. At the end of the day, I'm sure they yearn for something cold. A mug of chilled beer perhaps. But remember, we are talking about a time before refrigeration.
This is where our story takes us to America. In the early 1800s in Boston, there lived an enterprising young man named Frederick Tudor. Frederick lived in New England, and in winter, the lakes of New England were full of ice. One day, Frederick saw all of this ice and had a eureka moment. He cut up some ice from the frozen lakes and shipped it to Cuba, where there was a huge demand. It was a maverick idea, but it was wildly successful, and soon Frederick had a thriving ice business. Then he got even more adventurous. He decided to ship the ice to India. But surely the ice couldn't survive a 4-month-long voyage through largely tropical seas. But Frederick had an idea. He smeared the blocks of ice with a thick layer of pine wood sawdust to keep the ice insulated. It worked, and the ice safely reached India. The British were thrilled by this windfall, and they couldn't get enough of the ice. By the mid-1830s, Frederick was shipping huge quantities of ice to Calcutta, Bombay and Madras.
Now, interestingly, Frederick Tudor's earliest ice runs to other lands had actually failed, because those ports did not have a place to store ice when the ships docked. That meant all the ice and his profits simply melted away. In fact, he even spent time in prison, twice, because he couldn't repay his debts. But he persisted. In Calcutta, the ice from New England caused a sensation. So much so that within 3 days, the local community raised enough funds to build an ice house there. India very quickly became Frederick Tudor's most lucrative market and made him very rich. Soon, ice houses were constructed in Bombay and Madras too. Only one of these buildings survives today. And what you see here is the Madras Ice House.
So how did a windowless building turn into a structure like this? By the 1880s, ice making and refrigeration had been invented, and Frederick's ice business just slowly melted away. An Indian lawyer by the name of Biligiri Iyengar purchased the ice house and turned it into a seaside villa by adding windows and verandas.
In 1897, Biligiri invited the famous philosopher Swami Vivekananda to come and stay here for a short while. Swami Vivekananda had just returned after addressing the Chicago Parliament of Religions and was greatly acclaimed. Soon a branch of the Ramakrishna Mission, a spiritual order established by Swami Vivekananda, began operations from here. Today, this building is a museum showcasing the life and teachings of Swami Vivekananda. And what used to be the Madras Ice House is now called Vivekanandar Illam, or the Vivekananda House.